Very good morning. Today we are going to start with another topic. I'm Dr. Janak Patel. I'm going to talk on glomerulonephritis. There are two terms, glomerulopathy and glomerulonephritis. We can also call that as an acute nephritis or glomerulonephritis, or it is also called as post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. We'll be discussing under this following heading: definition, etiology, pathophysiology, clinical features, investigations, differential diagnosis, treatment and complications. By definition, glomerulopathy means involvement of glomerulus, maybe any etiology. While when you say glomerulonephritis, usually it is acute glomerulonephritis due to inflammation of glomerulus which causes kidney malfunction. It is also called acute nephritis, glomerulonephritis or post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis because the commonest cause is post-streptococcal. When you want to classify glomerulonephritis, you can classify into acute nephritic syndrome, acute nephrotic syndrome, or pulmonary renal syndrome, which is another name is Goodpasture syndrome. Third name, basement membrane syndrome, where you got an anti-GBM disease, Alport disease, and thin membrane disease. While glomerulovascular syndromes, they are atherosclerotic nephropathy, hypertensive nephropathy, or thrombotic microangiopathy, and infection-associated syndromes, which can be associated with hepatitis B, hepatitis C, HIV, malaria, leprosy, etc. And acute nephritic is very commonly associated with post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. Some other conditions like SLE, subacute bacterial endocarditis, etc. Another way to classify is primary and secondary. When we say primary means it is a primary involvement of the kidney. When we say secondary means kidney is involved secondary due to systemic disease, say as for example SLE. We can classify according to the etiology, that is primary or secondary. Morphological means histopathological diagnosis. Pathogenetic means when you do an immunological study, that is antibody studies, and depending on that you divide into different groups, and then depending upon the clinical features, and last is depending upon the progress and onset. We call acute variety, chronic variety, and rapidly progressive variety. So it is classified according to the etiology, immunological like anti-GBM, non-glomerular variety like immune complex, morphological like diffuse, focal, global, segmental, which is histopathological, proliferative variety, membranous variety, membranoproliferative, and eccentric variety, that is again a pathological classification. So histopathological classification wise, you can classify as minimal change, focal or segmental, membranous variety, proliferative variety, and then combination membranoproliferative, focal proliferative, diffuse proliferative, mesangial proliferative. These are all histopathological diagnosis. While when you do a antibody study, anti-GBM glomerulonephritis, anti-tubular membrane glomerulonephritis, immune complex disorders and non-immune complex disorders. Clinical features wise, we divide into acute glomerulo, chronic glomerulo, rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis, and nephrotic syndrome variety. And there is another group where it is commonly seen in a chronic variety, we call it acute and chronic. And in chronic, there is another group we call as asymptomatic urinary abnormality, like microscopic hematuria, proteinuria, or presence of both, that is hematuria and proteinuria. Rapidly progressive is further divided into type 1, type 2, type 3, that is anti-GBM, immune complex variety, and post-immune variety. Duration wise, it is divided into acute, chronic, and rapidly progressive. We say chronic when it is persistent for more than 3 months. Acute is subdivided into nephrotic variety, or we call minimal change glomerulonephritis, nephritic acute glomerulonephritis, and there are other classical types. There is another group we call as rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis, or we call crescentic glomerulonephritis, which is an histopathological diagnosis. Chronic glomerulonephritis is divided into latent chronic glomerulonephritis with hematuria, nephrotic variety, chronic glomerulonephritis, hypertensive chronic glomerulonephritis. These are the sub-classifications. Etiology wise, we divide into two big groups, primary, or we call idiopathic, which can be post-streptococcal or non-streptococcal. Secondary, we divide into infections, collagen disorders, drugs, metabolic, malignancy, and heredofamilial. In heredofamilial, Alport syndromes. In infection, bacterial parasites, virus, collagen disorder, SLE, periarthritis nodosa, rheumatoid arthritis. Drug-induced penicillamine, gold, aspirin, heroin, etc. Metabolic disorder, diabetes and amyloidosis. And in malignancy, Hodgkin's, multiple myeloma, and other varieties of lymphomas. So in infection, we divide into two big groups, post-streptococcal or non-streptococcal. In post-streptococcal, it is a group B beta hemolyticus, which belongs to 4, 19, 25 and 49. It is called group A beta hemolyticus, 4, 19, 25 and 49. And in a non-streptococcal variety, other varieties of bacterial infection like infective endocarditis, pneumococcal pneumonia, meningococcal, viral can be hepatitis B and C, and among parasites, mosquitoes bite and produces malaria, toxoplasmosis, etc. In systemic disorder, we already told you SLE, rheumatoid arthritis, Henoch-Stollen purpura, and in primary renal disorders, it is mesangial capillary glomerulonephritis, Buerger's disease, mesangial proliferative glomerulonephritis, and fourth group we call serum disorders or serum disease. The commonest conditions which produces chronic glomerulonephritis, which is from focal glomerulosclerosis, membranous glomerulonephritis variety, and rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis. These three accounts for the most common group. Another is membranoproliferative glomerulonephritis and IgA induced glomerulonephritis, while post-streptococcal is only 1 to 2%. As far as the pathophysiology is concerned, there are four major pathogenic injury. One, non-proliferative glomerulonephritis, it is damaged by antibody or damage mediated by complement system. While in a proliferative variety, it is damaged by circulating pro-inflammatory cells like neutrophil and macrophages, or damaged by locally activating resident cells, which is by mesangial cells. Following a streptococcal infection, there is a production of an immune complex formation, which is deposited at GBM. There is a complement system activation. So complement is utilized, and if you now do the examination in the blood, serum complement level is low. Now formation of an immune complex, complement system activation, there is an immune injury. So there is a damage to glomerular basement membrane. Because of damage to glomerular basement membrane, now proteinuria will occur, hematuria will occur. So person will always have a presence of RBC and protein in urine. Now there is a stimulation, so it will produce cellular proliferation. Capillary lumen is narrowed, glomerular blood flow is decreased. So because of decrease in a glomerular blood flow, GFR is low. Because GFR is low, distal sodium reabsorption is affected, which will produce hypernatremia. Decreased urine output will produce oliguria, and because of decreased urine output, there is retention of water and sodium, and because of retention of water and sodium, there is increased blood volume, which will produce edema and hypertension. This is a prime thing which will happen in a post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. Now complex system which is disturbances in immune system and genetic mutation, and this produces podocytes to be affected, And when the podocytes is affected, there is a massive proteinuria because permeability is markedly increased. So because of massive proteinuria, it will produce severe hypoproteinemia, decrease in colloidal osmotic pressure, and it will end up with generalized anasarca, and which is a massive generalized anasarca. And this we call as a nephrotic syndrome. The spectrum of glomerular disorders is right from nephrotic variety to nephritic variety. Nephritic variety is very common with SLE, anti-GBM disorders, small vessel vasculitis, post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, which is because of inflammation, reactive cell proliferation, breaks in glomerular basement membrane and crescent formation. And this produces more of hematuria, less of proteinuria. While in case of a nephrotic variety, it is because of the damage to the podocytes, change in the architectural structures, and which will produce massive proteinuria, less amount of hematuria. And this is very common in minimal chain nephropathy, focal focal variety, membranous nephropathy, and in a case of a diabetic nephropathy. While in a mesangial variety, it usually produces both mixture. Depending upon the severity, it will have massive hematuria or massive proteinuria, or sometimes it is with small quantity of RBC and small quantity of protein. Acute glomerulonephritis will progress into chronic glomerulonephritis, and then it will go into CKD. So usually acute glomerulonephritis may progress into either a rapid variety or a chronic variety. And depending upon the severity, the person will present as a rapidly progressive or a chronic glomerulonephritis. So chronic glomerulonephritis is because of the acute glomerulonephritis which has repeated episodes. Because of repeated episodes, there is a hardening of renal arteries. There is a reduction in the size of the kidney. There is a scarring. This scarring is usually affecting the part of the kidney, severe glomerular damage, and then later on it goes into end-stage renal failure. Acute glomerulonephritis will present in 5 different groups: acute variety, rapidly progressive variety, chronic variety, nephrotic variety, and asymptomatic urinary abnormality. So usually it begins, acute glomerulonephritis will begin suddenly, while chronic, if it is going into chronicity, it will develop very gradually over a period of many years. So glomerulonephritis is usually present as an anti-GBM complex formation, antibody anti-GBM complex formation, which will be diagnosed by renal biopsy. Headache, person will have a headache because of hypertension, water retention, generalized anasarca, malaise, low-grade fever, weight gain because of the retention of water, proteinuria, hematuria, oliguria, and there will be involvement of kidney which will produce decreased GFR. And these all things are because of a decreased GFR. So common symptoms are fever, headache, malaise, anorexia, nausea, vomiting, high blood pressure, pallor, edema, generalized anasarca, confusion, lethargy, loss of muscle tissue, enlargement of liver, all those things. And person may give you a history of having sore throat, tonsillitis, pharyngitis, etc. prior to these symptoms. That will indicate post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. Proteinuria may be asymptomatic, or hematuria may be also asymptomatic because it may be microscopic, and this will be mainly a classical group we call as asymptomatic urinary abnormality. Very common symptoms are hypertension, may present as a nephrotic syndromes, which will have a classical massive hypoproteinemia, massive proteinuria, and generalized anasarca. And in a nephrotic variety, it will be presenting as a good amount of hematuria, less amount of protein, and it will invariably present as an AKI, or we call as an acute renal failure signs, or it can present as a rapidly progressive renal failure and may end up with an end stage renal failure. Classical findings which you come across in acute nephrotic variety and which is usually seen within 1 or 2 weeks after streptococcal pharyngitis or 3 to 6 weeks after streptococcal pyoderma. The commonest finding is in 85% of the patient is edema, which can be generalized anasarca. Periorbital edema, or we call puffiness of face, ascites, pleural effusion, even pericardial effusion. If you examine urine, usually it will show you a good amount of proteinuria, and in a nephrotic variety, it will have a massive proteinuria. Oliguria is the most common findings. Hematuria is almost present in all the patient, and it is present as a smoky urine or tea colored or Coca-Cola colored or sometime a fresh blood urine, and good number of time it is present as a microscopic, which is hardly being detected. It will be only detected under microscope. Hypertension is very common almost in 80% of the patient, and it is usually mild to moderate variety and may be responding to diuresis. Non-specific symptoms like anorexia, vomiting, general malaise, lethargy, abdominal pain, pain in the flank, low-grade fever, weight gain, etc. So to come across, to summarize, hematuria is present almost in 100%, proteinuria, edema, hypertension, decrease in complement level almost in more than 80% of the group of people. Cryoglobin is elevated in blood. General symptoms like malaise, weakness, oliguria, nausea, vomiting, dull aching pain, lumbar pain, etc. is present in small groups. This is a figure showing you the pain in the lumbar region, or we call it a flank region. And this spectrum I have already discussed before, so you can have a presentation as a nephrotic variety or a nephritic variety. So now we'll be going through small groups. In asymptomatic, the person will hardly have any symptoms. Mainly it will be present in the form of a proteinuria, which can be microscopic or overt. And hematuria is again a microscopic variety. Because of this, the person is usually asymptomatic. If there is a macroscopic hematuria, it is usually brown color, red color, or painless. There is always post-infectious following pharyngitis or oral infections. It is usually asymptomatic hematuria with proteinuria in between the episodes. We have got two big groups we call nephritic variety or nephrotic variety. In nephritic variety, oliguria, hematuria with RBC cast, no massive proteinuria, edema is there but mild, hypertension and symptom signs of AKI. While in a nephrotic variety, usually the person will have a massive proteinuria more than 3.5 gram per day, severe hypoproteinemia, edema, even you will find lipids in urine and hypercholesterolemia. While in case of a rapidly progressive variety, there is a rapidly progress of acute renal failure, doubling of creatinine very fast, hematuria, red blood cell cast, hypertension, and in biopsy almost 50% of the people will show a crescent formation, and there will be features of vasculitis because it is very common with vasculitis. Chronic glomerulonephritis will usually present as a chronic persistence more than 3 months, hypertension, decrease in GFR, proteinuria, small size kidney with scarring. So if you want to differentiate nephrotic variety from nephritic variety, this is a chart which will show you. So onset in case of a nephrotic, it is usually slow, while in nephritic variety it is always acute. Generalized anasarca is more common with nephrotic variety, and there is a mild edema in case of a nephritic variety. Blood pressure is always elevated in nephritic variety, may be normal or may be slightly elevated in nephrotic variety. Central venous pressure is increased in case of a nephritic variety, and it is almost normal in a nephrotic group. Proteinuria is massive in case of a nephrotic, 1 plus or 2 plus in case of a nephritic variety. Hematuria is more prominent in case of a nephritic, less in case of a nephrotic syndrome. Red blood cell cast is more present in case of nephritic variety and less in case of a nephrotic syndrome. GFR is markedly decreased in case of a nephritic variety and may be normal in case of a nephrotic syndrome. Serum albumin is markedly low in nephrotic while it is slightly diminished in case of a nephritic group. This is the another way of differentiating the two. So almost similar what we have discussed before. Lipiduria will be present in case of a nephrotic group while there is no lipiduria in a nephrotic variety. The person will have increased maturation and will have a fat in urine, while in a case of a nephritic variety the person will say that I cannot pass urine because of oliguria, and person will have a hypertension and there will be signs of immune system disturbances. So these are the difference between the nephrotic groups and nephritic groups. When you go for an investigation, history is very important, physical examination, examination of alimentary system, CNS, CVS and RS to find out the effect of acute glomerulonephritis on these different organs. CBC will help you to identify certain types of disorders. Urine examination, routine and microscopic. Blood urea creatinine will be sharply elevated in acute glomerulonephritis. Protein, severe hypoproteinemia in a nephrotic groups, and in a nephritic group mild reduction in a protein. Uric acid will not be abnormal. Calcium will be close to normal. Hypernatremia, hyperkalemia, and there is an acidosis in case of an acute glomerulonephritis. KUB, CT scan and sonography will help you to find out the different types of kidney, whether it is a small size or it is slightly enlarged. Renal biopsy will be very useful in acute glomerulonephritis to identify histopathological classification. Antibody studies will also help you to identify the immunological classification, and then you can do the study for finding out the etiology, other investigations. So urine examination becomes the most important thing. Microscopic hematuria and a small amount of protein urea is very common in a chronic variety, or we call as a asymptomatic group. Massive proteinuria is seen commonly in a nephrotic variety. Good amount of hematuria is present usually in a nephritic variety. RBC cast are classical diagnosis of acute glomerulonephritis, and they are usually absent in case of a nephrotic syndrome. So this is a diagram showing you an RBC cast, and second thing shows you a tubular cast. Renal function tests like blood urea and serum creatinine will be sharply elevated in case of acute glomerulonephritis, hyperkalemia, and dilutional hyponatremia may be seen in a case of and along with metabolic acidosis in case of an acute glomerulonephritis. Blood count usually does not help much, but leukocytosis will be very commonly seen in a case of an acute glomerulonephritis. Complement level will be markedly reduced in case of an acute glomerulonephritis. Ultrasound, if it shows a small size kidney with scarring, it is more in favor of a chronic glomerulonephritis. Renal biopsy is very useful in case of an acute glomerulonephritis to find out histopathological groups. So this is a diagnostic useful in case of a etiology of acute glomerulonephritis. This is a diagram showing you how you approach with immune complex disorders affecting kidney. I am not going into that detail. This is an etiological classification, immunological, morphological, etc. Once you make the diagnosis of glomerulonephritis, the most common symptoms is oliguria, hematuria, proteinuria, and depending upon the symptoms we give symptomatic therapy. If diagnosis is acute glomerulonephritis, post-streptococcal, immunosuppressive therapy is the most important targets, in which steroid, methotrexate and cyclophosphamide is utilized. If person develops complication, you have to treat those complications, and that should be a regular follow-up for prognosis and to find out whether the person is going into a stage of complications or person is going into chronic glomerulonephritis. So common medication which is utilized to control blood pressure and to reduce the fluid retention is diuretics. But while giving a diuretics, you have to keep in mind the electrolyte imbalance like hypokalemia, hyperkalemia, because when you use potassium sparing diuretics, it will give rise to hyperkalemia. When you use a strong loop diuretics, it can produce hyponatremia and hypokalemia. And sometimes the person can go into hypovolemia. So diuretic therapy should be used with proper caution. Fluid restriction is usually done to reduce the water retention. Immunosuppressive therapy is very useful to control the basic disorders. If diuretic does not control the blood pressure, you might have to add other antihypertensive drugs. If person develops a severe complication like severe hyperkalemia or severe hyponatremia or hypernatremia, uremia, uremic encephalopathy, then person might have to go for dialysis. Lifestyle modification is very useful. Person should have a restriction of salt and water intake because there is a sodium retention and water retention. Restriction of potassium is depending upon the potassium level, but usually in an initial stage potassium has to be restricted. Phosphorus and magnesium are also the second element which should be restricted depending upon the level. Protein is cut down because it will elevate your blood urea. Maintain healthy weight through diet and exercise. If required, calcium supplements are given. Depending upon the different stages, different things are being advised, which is shown in this particular diagram. That is, in an early stage, bed rest, look for symptoms and signs, have a regular checkup, and if a person now starts developing hypertension, the commonest drug which is very commonly utilized is a CCB, we call nifedipine, and add a diuretics because of volume overload and sodium overload. And later on, when the antihypertensive does not work properly, you might have to think of adding another antihypertensive drugs. Depending upon the complications, you will have to give some of the other treatment. Apart from lifestyle modification, diuretic and antihypertensive, you might have to go for dialysis. So this is a diagram showing you the management of complication. This management of blood pressure, management of fluid overload and oliguric stage, electrolyte imbalance, acid-base imbalance, hyperkalemia, and treatment of AKI. And last thing, if all the previous treatment does not work out, then you might have to plan out for dialysis. Complications, person can have a nephrotic variety or nephritic variety. If a person goes nephrotic variety, usually it is a slowly progressive, so a person may go into nephrotic syndrome and later on into chronic kidney disorders, CKD. Hypertension is a common complication which will persist and person will have a secondary hypertension, or we call renal hypertension. In a variety of an acute glomerulonephritis, person can go into AKI, and from AKI person can go into end stage renal failure. Volume overload, pulmonary edema, cerebral edema, etc. can be another group of complications. Uremic encephalopathy can be another variety. Chronic glomerulonephritis and chronic CKD will be another group which can be a complications of acute glomerulonephritis. Here I end my lecture. I hope this will be helpful to you in your everyday practice and in your exam.